You know that feeling when you just really want something to go a certain way,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
like at work or maybe with a friend, or even just, how your day plays out.
Mhm.
That urge to kind of steer things, get it just right, it feels almost like hardwired, doesn't it?
Really does. Like it's second nature sometimes.
But what if that impulse, that need to control, is actually a major source of our stress? And, let's be real, can cause some serious friction in our relationships.
That's a great place to start. I think pretty much everyone can relate to that feeling. Wanting to grab the wheel, even when it's, well, not really ours to grab.
Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. You mentioned wanting to get right to the good stuff, those aha moments, without feeling buried in details.
Exactly. Get the core ideas quickly.
So we're doing a deep dive into the let them theory, a life-changing tool that millions of people can't stop talking about, by Mel Robbins.
Ah, yes, that book. It's definitely generated a lot of buzz, and from what I've seen, for some pretty solid reasons.
Totally. And the core idea, it's actually simple, but pretty profound.
Yeah.
It challenges that deep urge to control everything, relationships, situations, expectations.
Okay.
And instead, it shifts the focus to the one thing we actually can control,
Which is?
ourselves, our own thoughts, our emotions, our actions. The book frames it as like a shortcut to less anxiety, more trust, and actually empowering others.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially these days when everything feels a bit chaotic. Finding calm by letting go of trying to manage the outside world, there's something appealing there.
Right. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We'll lay out the map. First, the problem, why are we so driven to control?
Makes sense.
Then we'll hit that key shift, moving from I must to I choose. We'll look at the psychology behind it, the main principle of letting go,
Okay.
how it plays out in real-life relationships, work, and crucially, some practical tools you can actually use. We'll even touch on the hurdles and, finally, the big benefits. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's start with that control instinct. It's something most of us probably see in ourselves, right? Even if we don't always realize it.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Why do we feel this need to, well, micromanage sometimes? The book suggests we often learn early on that control equals caring, or responsibility, or even love.
Ah, yeah. Like parents guiding kids, maybe?
Mhm.
Or, friends giving advice you didn't ask for?
Exactly. It often comes from a good place. But it sets up this pattern, this belief that our intervention is needed or helpful.
That makes sense. It's like we think if I can just manage these variables, everything will turn out okay. We equate control with safety.
Right. But here's where the book throws a curveball.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the illusion of control.
Okay, the illusion.
Yeah. It basically says that much of what we try to control other people, changing situations, it's fundamentally uncontrollable.
Yeah.
People are complicated, life is unpredictable.
Mm.
Trying too hard to grip it just makes it slip through our fingers,
Yeah.
and leads to frustration. Realizing this is kind of freeing.
That definitely rings true. And how often do those attempts to control someone else actually push them away, cause
Oh,
resentment?
Totally. The book really hammers this point home, the impact on relationships. When we try to manage or fix people, it sends this subtle message, doesn't it? Like, I don't trust you, or you're not capable on your own.
Yeah, it devalues them,
Yeah.
undermines the whole foundation. Nobody likes feeling like they're someone else's project.
Not at all. And then there's the cost to us. The book
Well,
talks about that too.
Oh, the personal toll.
Yeah. It's immense.
Yeah.
All that mental energy, that emotional effort poured into orchestrating things outside ourselves, it's just draining.
Literally exhausting.
Yeah, it leaves us with less capacity for our own stuff, for things that actually matter to us, like trying to constantly adjust the ship's sails and forgetting to enjoy the journey itself.
So step one, according to the book, is really just seeing this pattern. Seeing the problem with control, its limits, its downsides.
Exactly, acknowledging it.
Yeah.
And that awareness sets the stage for the big shift.
Which leads us to that core idea you mentioned, moving from I must to I choose.
Yes, this was a real light bulb moment for me in understanding the theory.
Tell me more about that contrast. I must versus I choose. Sounds simple, but the difference feels like it could be huge.
Oh, it is. The I must way of thinking, the book says, usually comes from pressure, like external expectations, societal norms, or just this underlying fear of failure, fear of disapproval.
Right. This feels heavy, constricting.
Totally. I must make sure my partner does X. I must get my team to hit this target. It's all obligation, and it feels like you don't really have power.
And I choose flips that script.
Completely. It's about realizing you have agency. You have a choice in how you respond to any situation. Instead of feeling forced to react in a certain way,
You pause.
you pause, exactly, and you consciously decide. Now, this isn't about being apathetic or cold. It's about deliberate action. You might choose to help your partner, but it's different than feeling you must control their choices to make you feel okay.
I see. So it's like that urge to constantly check in versus choosing to trust them and offering support if they ask. That's the shift.
That's the essence of it. It's taking ownership of your response, not trying to dictate their actions.
Got it.
And here's a cool insight from the book. When you let go of that feeling that you have to manage everyone else,
Yeah.
you free up so much mental bandwidth.
Hmm.
Seriously. Space opens up for your own creativity, your own growth, maybe those deeper connections we talked about. It's like mental decluttering.
That makes perfect sense. If you're busy conducting everyone else's orchestra, you've got no energy left to play your own music.
Well put. And it changes how you see responsibility, too, in a much healthier way.
How so?
It's not about being responsible for other people's choices or outcomes. It's about being responsible for your response to those choices and outcomes.
Ah, okay. That's a key to
And
slice.
the book argues that's where your real power is. And that's how you seriously cut down on your own stress and anxiety.
Okay, so we've got the problem, this core shift in mindset. Now the book gets into the why, right? The psychology behind this urge to control.
Exactly. This is where it nicely connects the self-help aspect with a bit of the science behind our thinking and feeling. It really digs into the role of fear.
Fear. Yeah. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, rejection. That feels like a big driver.
Absolutely. The book explains our brains are kind of wired to seek safety and predictability, avoid threats. So when things feel uncertain or we worry something bad might happen, the brain often jumps to control as a defense mechanism. Let me manage the pieces so I feel safe.
Right. It's like a survival instinct getting maybe overused in everyday life.
Like a smoke alarm that's a bit too sensitive.
Yeah.
And the book also connects this control need to things like perfectionism and even self-worth.
How does that work?
Well, for some people, being able to control things becomes proof of their competence, their value. The thinking goes, if I keep everything humming along perfectly, then I'm okay. I'm worthy.
Oof. But that's a fragile way to feel good about yourself, isn't it? Because perfect control is illusion.
Exactly. The book points out it just leads to burnout. You can't sustain it.
No way.
And then it touches on these interesting cognitive biases, ways our thinking kind of tricks us.
Like what?
Things like confirmation bias, where we look for evidence that confirms we should be in control, or the illusion of control itself, where we just flat out overestimate how much impact we actually have, even on random stuff.
So our own minds can kind of conspire against us here.
Pretty much.
Fair.
We might think our way is best, so we only notice when others mess up, reinforcing our need to step in.
Right. Got it.
And by understanding all this psychology, the book encourages, self-compassion and empathy for others too. It's not about blame. It's about seeing these often unconscious forces at work.
Which brings us right to the core principle, doesn't it, actually? Letting go.
Yes, the heart of the matter.
It sounds simple, but also maybe counterintuitive, especially if we're wired for control.
It can feel that way at first, for sure. But the book presents letting go not as giving up or being passive, but as an active choice. You're actively choosing to release that need to micromanage.
Okay, so what does this art of letting go, as the book calls it, actually look like day to day?
Well, a big piece is cultivating trust. Trusting other people's ability to handle things, to make their own decisions, even if they're different from yours. And also trusting life itself a bit. Trusting that things can unfold okay without your constant intervention.
That takes a leap of faith for many people, I imagine.
It really can. And that's where mindfulness comes in, according to the book. It's a key tool.
How does mindfulness help here?
By helping you stay present. You observe your thoughts, you notice that urge to jump in and control, but you don't automatically react. You create a little space.
Ah, that pause you mentioned.
Exactly. That pause lets you choose your response instead of just acting on impulse. You see the urge, you acknowledge it, you don't have to obey it.
Okay. Mindfulness creates the space. What else?
Acceptance is another big one. Not resignation like, oh, well, everything's terrible, but accepting the reality of uncertainty, accepting what is,
Right.
and then focusing your energy where it counts on your own response, your own actions, things you can actually influence. It's a constant theme. Accept what is, focus on your response.
It is. And are there practical tips, things people can actually do?
Yep. The book suggests things like maybe journaling about your fears around letting go. What are you really afraid will happen?
Good question.
Or identifying times your control attempts actually made things worse.
Mm.
Learning from that. And consciously practicing not intervening in small ways, like
Yeah.
biting your tongue when you want to jump in and fix something for someone.
Those sound like real concrete starting points. So the theory sounds good, the principles make sense. How does this actually play out? In the real world, the book must cover applications.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It spends a good chunk of time on that. Relationships, work, even personal growth.
Okay, let's start with relationships. How does letting go help there?
The book argues that when you stop trying to control your partner, your kids, your friends, you actually create space for real connection, authenticity.
Because they feel seen
Yeah.
and trusted, not just managed.
Exactly. Instead of trying to shape them into your ideal, you let them be them. That builds mutual respect, empathy. It can shift the whole dynamic away from expectation and disappointment towards acceptance and just appreciation.
I can see that. And at work, I imagine this is huge, especially moving away from micromanagement cultures.
Huge. The book shows how leaders, using this let them theory, shift from command and control to empowerment.
Okay.
By trusting employees, letting them own things, make decisions, you spark innovation, morale goes up, you get a more engaged team.
So it's not about no standards or accountability.
Not at all. It's about achieving those things differently, through trust, effective delegation, and clear expectations, not by breathing down necks. It actually leads to better accountability sometimes.
Interesting. And it even applies to ourselves.
Yeah. The book points out how we try to control ourselves so much, our own harshest critics, right?
Guilty as charged sometimes.
Totally. So applying let them to yourself means letting yourself make mistakes, letting yourself evolve without demanding perfection, practicing self-compassion. It builds resilience.
Wow. So it really is across the board, shifting from fear and rigidity to trust and flexibility.
That's a great way to put it. And to help make that shift, the book offers a kind of toolkit, practical techniques.
Good. Because knowing is one thing, doing is another. What's in the toolkit?
Right. So there are specific mindfulness practices, simple breathing exercises, maybe guided visualizations, things to help quiet that inner control freak voice.
Training the mind to be less reactive.
Okay, and we talked about cognitive reframing. It gives more detail on how to do that. Like catch yourself in the act of trying to control unnecessarily.
Okay.
Then consciously shift your perspective. Ask, what's the growth opportunity here for me, for them? Turning that control urge into something more useful.
And boundaries. That seems like it must fit in here.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Book stresses healthy boundaries aren't walls. They're clear lines. What's okay, what's not okay, and how people interact with you. Having that clarity actually reduces your own anxiety. It makes you less likely to try and control other people's boundaries or behavior.
That makes sense. Clear boundaries reduce the need to manage. Anything else in the toolkit?
Yeah, it suggests tracking your progress. Maybe keep a simple journal or log. Note when you resisted the urge to control.
Reinforcing the positive.
Exactly. And notice the outcome. Did the world end? Probably not. Over time, seeing the evidence builds awareness and proves the benefits to yourself.
So it's really about actively working these tools, not just reading about them. Now, I bet it's not always easy. What about challenges, resistance?
Such an important point. The book definitely doesn't pretend as a magic wand. It talks about that internal resistance.
Yeah, the ingrained habits, the fears.
Right. That fear that you've let go, chaos will erupt, or you'll look negligent. The book calls these internal saboteurs and helps you recognize them.
And what about pushback from others? People who are used to you being in control, or maybe try to control you?
Good question. The book suggests strategies like clear, calm communication, explaining your approach gently, setting expectations,
Okay.
and sometimes recognizing when a situation is just unhealthy, and maybe you need to step back if there's constant resistance to a more trusting dynamic.
So a mix of assertiveness and acceptance there.
Exactly. And the key message is, it's a process. It takes practice. There will be slip-ups, but sticking with it leads to those shifts.
And those shifts, the benefits the book describes, sound pretty compelling.
They really are. The book lays out a strong case. Think about just the personal freedom you gain.
Yeah.
When you're not spending all your energy trying to control externals, you have more energy for you.
Yeah.
Your growth, creativity, just lightness.
And the relationship piece, deeper connections built on trust, not control.
Absolutely. Less criticism, less conflict, more genuine respect and understanding. And the mental health benefits, huge.
Less anxiety, less mental chatter.
Exactly. Like quieting down that constant internal management commentary, leading to more peace.
And professionally, that boost in productivity from empowered, trusted teams.
For sure. People who feel trusted are generally more motivated, more innovative. It makes for a better work environment.
And the book even hints at a bigger picture.
Yeah, it suggests that adopting this mindset can ripple outwards, fostering a culture, whether in a family or a community, of more empowerment, where people feel freer to learn and grow.
That's a hopeful vision, and the book backs these benefits up.
Yeah.
With stories or research.
Yes, it weaves in testimonials and references findings to show these aren't just nice ideas, they have real-world impact.
Okay, so for listeners who are thinking, this resonates, I want to try this, how does the book suggest integrating it long-term, making it stick?
It offers some really down-to-earth advice, like building small daily rituals.
Such as?
Maybe start the day with an intention or affirmation about trust or letting go. Take a few mindful breaths during the day when you feel that control urge rising, or spend 2 minutes at night reflecting. Where did I let go today? How did it feel?
Creating those consistent touch points makes sense.
Yeah. And finding a support system helps too. Sharing the journey with a friend or partner who gets it. That accountability can be really helpful. The book also advises, periodically checking your priorities. What really needs your focus. Let go of the small stuff.
And celebrating the wins, right?
Definitely. Acknowledge when you do resist that urge.
Yeah.
Notice the good outcome, however small. That positive reinforcement keeps you going. It sounds like a really holistic approach, from the big idea down to the daily habits.
It really does aim to be comprehensive.
So wrapping up this deep dive on the let them theory, the big takeaway is pretty clear, isn't it?
Yeah, that shifting away from trying to control everything towards more trust and acceptance, it opens up a lot.
More freedom for you, better relationships, better well-being overall. And we didn't just skim the surface. We really tried to get into the core ideas and the practical steps the book offers.
And hopefully for everyone listening, this gives you a solid handle on the principles. Maybe some things to think about in your own life. Remember that initial feeling we talked about, that urge to manage things.
Yeah.
Maybe now you have a slightly different lens to look at those moments.
Exactly. So here's something to maybe chew on this week. What if you intentionally decided to step back just a little from trying to manage one specific thing?
Could be anything.
Right. A relationship dynamic, a project at work, even just your own rigid expectations for the day. What might happen if you injected a bit more trust, a bit less control? What could you discover?
That's a powerful question.
It is. Consider this deep dive a starting point. We really encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, see how they fit for you, and hey, maybe grab the book if it sparked your interest. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.